Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today, talking about Roquan Smith has requested a trade from the Bears. Look, y'all might want to buckle up. Y'all just might want to buckle up for this season. I was going to say anything could happen. I don't know if that's true. There are surprises in the league, but there's never a team with just no talent or a team with a roster that people think has little talent that just for some reason plays well. Like, you could talk about the Bengals last year, but you got Joe Burrow, who is a top pick and ended up being pretty good. That's what you expected. You got Jamar Chase added to a group of receivers that was already solid, and you expected him to be big time, and he was. And so that can overcompensate for the offensive line. Then their defense was dramatically improved with all those free agents. So I'm not even going to take the Bengals. So I can tell you the last time a team where you was like, that team kind of sucks, and they just ended up being great. I don't see it happening for us. So while I don't like to go into, absolutes, I would just say I'm about 85% sure you want to buckle up. This is going to be a rough season because I've already talked about what our, team roster looks like and all that. But now we're talking about Roquan leaving, and that just adds another blow. So I'm sure everybody heard, if you haven't, Roquan posted some screenshots, basically his letter and telling the Bears fans. And I laughed because the first thing I saw was some fan on one of the groups, on Facebook groups, and they was like, I don't buy this. I think this fake quote unquote report isn't real. Like, who types this on there? This looks like a note app on a phone. I'm like, wow. First of all, it's Ian Rappaport. Second of all, do you not pay attention to Instagram and all that? Like, that's how people do it because they can't type all those characters. So they type it on the phone, then take a screenshot, bro. They've been doing that. Some fans will say anything. But anyway, so he basically laid out that he represents himself, doesn't have an agent, and he's been trying to get a deal done with the Bears. We know he was holding in and all that. But not only have the Bears not really negotiated with him, but they also offer him some lowball deals that he said, and it's true, would be bad for him in the linebacker market. As much as people don't understand or believe it, players have to look out for each other in the sense of taking an appropriate deal so you don't mess the market up. Hence Deshaun Watson almost messing the market up for quarterbacks. So he said the deal they sent him was lowball. Now, I don't know the details. Ian Rappaport said that it has some de-escalators in there and it was backloaded, and it was not a normal deal for this type of player. And so he didn't want to set that precedence. Now, it's funny because we're talking about the same guy who held out as a rookie because of the finer language. And, of course, at that time, as I said before, people was trashing him. And people trashed this idea, why you worried about, these stipulations. And now you fast forward to Kyler Murray, and we went on for a week straight talking about Kyler Murray because of the stipulations. That stuff matters. I don't care what y'all say. I don't care that y'all play fantasy football or you only watch on Sunday, whatever you do. In the real world, this stuff matters. And so, yes, if they have language in there that's going to be detrimental, that's an important sticking point. And I say this all the time, and I really don't think people understand it. You can put whatever in a contract as long as it's not illegal. And so the details are very important. So anyway, basically what I read from the way he said it is more so the Bear, or Ryan Poles, I should say, and the regime have not been dealing with him in a manner of respect that he thinks he deserves. Not just on the number side, but also respecting him with how they're negotiating his contract and really, giving him the opportunity, a real opportunity to negotiate this rather than just either talking down to him or brushing him aside. As he mentioned, the fact that he's doing it by himself, he doesn't think Ryan Poles is taking that seriously. And then Ryan Poles comes out and says it's been difficult because he represents himself. Look, I'm not in that room. None of us are. I don't know specifically what they're talking about. Maybe Roquan's being unreasonable. Maybe he doesn't understand something. Or maybe Ryan Poles is trying to gank him. I don't know the specific details, but what I do know is this is a bad look. This is a real bad look. Like, I'm going to go 3 levels. As far as this season, you already know where I'm at. As I said before, with Tevin Jenkins and all that, this doesn't change my outlook on the season. I think it's about to be a rough ride. That's over with. As far as my outlook on Roquan, I don't know. I said before, this gets done. This is easy. But obviously, they messed some fences up that need to be mended. And I think Roquan put in the letter, hey, the McCaskies might be able to salvage this. I think, it was a very clear olive branch. So that's a possibility. And owners, most owners, they'll bend over. They'll be like, oh, my God, yeah, we want you here. We want to take care of you. Let's do it. Whatever. Just throw this money around. But GMs aren't like that. GMs are going to play the hardball stance, and they have to. They have to be the bad cop. And the owner could be the good cop if they want to be. So it's very possible. I'm honestly at a 50-50 split. I don't think the way he presented it, the fact that he even went to the fans, it was a leverage play, but he still went to the fans to be like, and I believe him, he wants to be a Bear. The man plays the best linebacking team in the world, and he's shown that he's up to that caliber. So I 100% believe that he wants to be here. And so it was a leverage play, but at the same time, I feel like, he left that door open a little bit. So I'm 50-50 on whether he comes back or not. It's not impossible to get a trade, especially, when you're on your last year or coming up on your last year. And he's a young, talented guy. So there's that. And then on the level of Ryan Poles in the regime, and I don't know what Eberflus plays into this or not, but I'm not loving it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not loving it right now. I know, and as I said, many times before, you got to give it the time to see how it plays out. But all the steps along the way, even just the introduction and attitude of Ryan Poles, I have not loved it. And it's one thing to get a vibe, but to see the actions play out and that matches up with the vibe you had, that's a whole different thing. I've said before, Ryan Poles really smells and reeks of imposter syndrome. He seems like the guy that's trying hard to show that he's the guy instead of just being the guy. And I was telling my friend earlier, it reminds me of the Belichick coaching tree. Well, a lot of these guys go to different teams and try to be Belichick without the respect or resume. And so for me, Ryan Poles is coming off with this very my way or the highway type thing. All this talk of we want the type of guys we want. And, and again, it hasn't been super boastful, but the moves show it. The moves are, we'll get rid of anybody. We have no loyalty to you. And there's GMs in the past in different teams that have said that have had a meeting with teams like, we'll get rid of any of y'all. We don't have no loyalty to you. So I don't like that approach. Obviously, it's not collaborative. It's not, it's not good for the team. And the moves we seen, for me, I wasn't in love with our roster, but I thought we could do different approaches to start competing. This is a full teardown. I don't care what people say. This is a teardown. And then on top of that, where you have people that say, wow, we're rebuilding, retooling. That's what you do with a young quarterback, blah, blah. What have we done for the quarterback? This is like third, fifth time I said this. What have we done for Justin Fields? What are we putting him out there with? Now, Justin might overcome, but we're setting him up for failure right now with this roster. We have the worst receiving core in the league. I don't want to hear anything about it. The worst. And so with the injuries on top of that, it's just, look, I feel, again, there was space to get rid of some people, but also bring in some people and, you know, be somewhat competitive. What they've done with this roster, we're not going to be competitive. And I'm not a fan of that approach, but again, I'm going to let it play out. But now, on top of that, you getting this just adversarial attitude with players, especially your top players. It adds to the list of things that I just do not feel good about. Like I said, I'm not going to write off anybody right now, but I'm very sour right now on Ryan Poles in the new regime. So we'll see what the coaching staff can do, and we'll see what Ryan Poles does later, because really he's done nothing as far as build a roster. I mean, we could talk about the draft picks and that philosophy, but he hasn't done much to build a roster. All he did is tear down the roster and bring in minimum players. So we'll see once we get to the building phase if he's any good at that. But right now, it feels bad. It feels like a team that's trying to lose. And it feels like, if I'm a top player or whatever, this feels like a team I don't want to go play for. A GM I don't want to go play for. Roquan not only is like one of our best defenders, but he's been one of the best leaders too. He's the type of guy you want. And so to treat him this way publicly, or to have it become public, is not a good look. It's absolutely not a good look. But like I said, with Tevin Jenkins, they did not draft these people. And so, yes, technically you had that freedom, but I think you got to use it smartly. You don't just come in here and be like, I'm getting rid of all y'all my way or the highway. I think you got to be smart with it. So, I think it's a toss-up if Roquan comes back. But either way, I don't think that changes our season. And then the last thing I'll say, which I thought was funny, is, you know, this is why I always tell y'all about numbers. And people just be quoting numbers and don't care. So there's some feelings that these Bears don't look at Roquan as this like all-pro next level linebacker. Obviously, you got the Pro Bowl snubs, you got the all-pro snubs. Some people compare the numbers to the all-pros and be like, look at this. But then you got Pro Football Focus saying that he's a middle-of-the-road defender based on their grades, that he's not even that great. And, of course, then people want to attack Pro Football Focus when they be quoting them other times to make their case. So people, as I always said, numbers can dance. You can make them do what you want. And people just going to attach to whatever number helps their case. So just another small little lesson. But anyway, that's it for me. Go down the comment section. Let me know what you think about the Roquan situation. Do you think he'll get traded? Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And remember, stay up and bear down.